Hello vaping world, it's Ben here again, and today I'm going to talk to you about DIY eLiquid, or making your own eLiquid. Hopefully this is going to be a comprehensive video with everything you need to know about what materials you're going to need, safety, all that good stuff, everything you're going to need to know to start making your own eLiquid. So, yeah, why would you want to make your own eLiquid? Well, there's a couple reasons. First of all, it's a lot cheaper than buying vendor juice, especially with these premium juices running, up to upwards of $1 per milliliter, which is far too much. So yeah, you can save a bunch of money. You have complete control over what goes into your eLiquid. You don't have to worry about a vendor putting all kinds of weird food coloring or other additives in there that you don't know what they are. They don't know what the long-term effects of inhaling that is. So you have control over your eLiquid. You also have more control over your nicotine level because you're mixing it yourself. You can mix up something like 10 milligrams per milliliter, which is what I've been vaping, and I don't know of any vendor that sells 10 milligrams per milliliters. You got your standard steps, which are 24, 18, 12, 6, and between that 12 and 6 is often a very large gap that is sometimes a little bit too much. So I've stepped myself down to 10 by making my own, and I find that to be just a really good balance between satisfying me and being able to sit down and chain vape for as long as I want without getting like, whoa, just like too much nicotine. So, and it's also, vaping can obviously be a hobby, and you have the rebuildables, which is one aspect of the hobby, and then you've also got making your own eLiquid, which is another aspect of the hobby. So I mean, you can just have all the fun you can imagine making eLiquid. So what are you going to need to do this? Well, obviously, and I get all my my supplies from wizardlabs. I recommend checking them out. I'll put the website up right around there. They've got good prices. I trust their quality. I trust that their nicotine is what they say it is. They are what I would describe as a reputable vendor, and it's a great one-stop shop. They've got different flavors from Flavor West, I believe, Loran's, and my personal choice, which is Perfumer's Apprentice, or the Flavor Apprentice, TPA, TFA, the same company. But that's what I use for my flavors. They just seem to be a supplier that I trust. So obviously you're going to need a bottle of nicotine solution. This is PG based, and I mix with 100 milligram strength. You may not want to jump right into 100 milligrams because that is, obviously the most dangerous. If you spill that, get it on your skin, it's not going to be good. So obviously, there's safety aspects involved that we'll talk about in a little bit. But if you're first starting out, you don't completely trust yourself to not spill or measure incorrectly or anything like that. You can even get like pre-mixed bases, like your 70-30, 50-50 that are at the nicotine level that you already want. You can get like 12 milligram 50-50 PGVG. All you have to do is add your flavors. That's a great way to start out. Also, I would recommend, if you're just starting out, get like double the strength that you intend to do. That way, it makes the mixing easy and safe. But 100 milligram is just what I choose to do. That's my personality. That's never going to change about me, no matter what anybody says, about safety aspects. So I get the 100 milligram. I choose to be safe with it, and that's what I do. You're also going to want vegetable glycerin. This is a, 250 milliliters. You basically get a lot of this. I like to vape high VG liquids, so I burned through that bottle real quick. If you want to get like a gallon, excuse me, that'll last you a while. Would also recommend getting some PG, you know, just in case you need to make some thinner liquids, because you know, when the weather is cold, sometimes you need to have a thinner liquid for it to wick or, you know, drip out of your bottle well. So, you know, PG, VG, nicotine is great. And then you also need flavors. Grab these real quick. I keep mine in these nice little plastic containers. And what I do for my flavors is when I make my wizardlabs order, I just buy, you know, a whole bunch of flavors that I think that I can make something with. They come in, you know, these 8 milliliter vials, and that's a real good amount. You can mix up like a whole bunch of 5 ml bottles, really play around with it, tweak your recipes, you know, come up with what you're going to be mixing, and then you're going to find out what flavors that you're going to need, and then you can go on to buy the larger bottle. This is a 15 milliliter bottle that I got directly from Perfumer's Apprentice, right from their website. Yeah, so what I do is I buy the smaller vials from wizardlabs, I figure out my recipes and what flavors that I'm going to need, and then I buy the larger bottles right from the supplier. You're also going to need some measuring equipment. I prefer to use syringes for measuring flavors, nicotine, and what have you. You can also use pipettes. I don't really recommend using the like rubber, you know, the ones that look like eyedroppers. They're not very accurate. If you're going to use pipettes, I definitely recommend going out and getting the legit glass graduated pipettes with a pipette pump. That's going to give you very accurate measurements. It's, you know, what they use in the labs. But for me, with the level of accuracy that I know that I need to be dealing with, and for this being my own personal liquid that I'm not really selling, the syringes are fine. They're plenty accurate. So, you know, that's what I choose to do. I recommend getting 1 ml syringes for measuring out your flavors, and you're not really going to run into problems until you start mixing like 15 milliliter bottles. Then you're going to want like 3 ml syringes. The 3 ml syringes are good for, you know, your VG, your PG, and the 5 milliliter sizes, and then when you start going up to 10 and larger, you're going to want 10 ml syringes, especially for your VG. And for your VG, you're going to want lower gauge, fatter diameter syringe tips to get that thick liquid in there. And yeah, so you're also going to want gloves. One second. It's the pair of, where the hell is the other glove? Alright, I only have one glove right now. I don't know where the other one is. I'll find it before we start doing stuff, but you want rubber gloves for when you're dealing with your nicotine. And this is a syringe that I use for my nicotine, and I've marked it with a permanent marker on the plunger, on the body of the syringe, and on the tip, so I don't mix that up and I don't get nicotine where I don't want nicotine. You really want to keep track of that at all times. If you're dealing with 100 milligram nicotine, you're going to want the gloves. You should also have long sleeves. You may want some eye protection in case some splashes. You really don't want to get that in your eye. You may want a respirator if you want to go all out. Personally, I choose to open up the window, make sure I have good ventilation in the room, because I'm telling you, you will feel those fumes. So just make sure you've got, you know, proper ventilation, you got gloves on, you got sleeves, just in case you spill or get any on you. If you spill, you've got kind of a problem, because that's gonna really contaminate your space until you can get that cleaned up. That's like a hazmat situation. You really don't want to get into that. So you may even want to take your 100 milligram nicotine, cut it down, put it into smaller bottles that are, you know, safer. Yeah, so it really depends on how you want to go about the safety, but gloves and ventilation and long sleeves are an absolute minimum for dealing with nicotine, because it's poison, obviously. You may also want a graduated cylinder. I don't have one. I don't really need one because I make all of my recipes from known amounts, and I measure that and put it in. Graduated cylinder is really useful if you're doing something with drops and you want to find out how many drops, what the volume of those drops are. The graduated cylinder would be really useful there. Also, it's also good for double checking yourself, because as you're measuring stuff in, you can see on the graduated cylinder where, how much liquid you now have in your mixture, and you can be like, oh, I'm missing, 3 mils, maybe I forgot to put in some PG or a little bit of flavoring. You can see that and you can double check yourself. Let's see, what else? Measuring equipment. Bottles, I really recommend PET, which are these clear, hard to squeeze kind of clicky bottles. Obviously other kind of plastics will work, your HPDE or whatever that is called, which are these bottles, the like easy to squeeze kind of opaque rubbery bottles. They'll work too. They're not quite as good, and wizardlabs ships their nicotine in PET, so I choose to follow that recommendation and use PET bottles for my mixing. I get my bottles from wizardlabs and also from lightsigUSA.net. That's where I get these PET bottles from. Good prices, so if you need bottles, I'd recommend checking them out. Alright, so what types of flavor are you going to want to use? I choose to use TFA or TPA, Perfumer's Apprentice, Flavor Apprentice. They are, while they will never admit that their flavors are sold for eLiquid creation because they don't want that liability, a lot of people are buying their flavors for that, and they're aware of that, and they work with their customers to make sure there's none of the custard notes in there, which we'll talk about that a little bit later. So yeah, you want to be using Flavor West, TPA, Loran Naturals. You don't want to use the Loran or oils. Capella, I'm not really too familiar with. I don't know if they're oil based or not, but you don't want to be using flavors that are suspended in oil because A, it's not going to mix very well. You want things that are water soluble, that are really going to mix up, stay together in a solution, and also water soluble means that it's going to be able to be absorbed by your lungs and processed by your body. If you're inhaling oils, there's a pretty good chance that that can sit in your lungs and cause respiratory issues that you really don't want to be dealing with. Give me 1 second here. I don't recommend using any kind of food coloring in your liquid. It's really not necessary. It doesn't matter what your liquid looks like. You don't need to make it bright red or bright green. It is really unnecessary, and food colorings are not designed to be inhaled, and it's just another variable that you're throwing in there. It's an unknown that could potentially end up being bad. So I really recommend staying away from food colorings. Some of the flavors will have coloring in them on their own. This is TFA, Kahlua, and cream, and right on the ingredients it says natural and artificial flavors, PG water, and caramel color. So if you want to use this flavor, and it's gonna have coloring in it, there's nothing you can do about that. It's gonna gunk up your atomizer quicker, but if you want that flavor, it's just something to understand, a risk that you choose to take or not take, and you gotta be an adult about it and make that informed decision. I choose to use that flavor because I like it, but I will never add coloring to my liquid, and that's really the only flavor that I have. Some of them have slight colorations to them, but that's just from the flavor itself. None of that is added by the manufacturer, apart from the Kahluas and cream that I just told you about. Yeah. So from here, I think I've covered the intro pretty well. I'm gonna set up some screen recording on my computer, and then we'll talk about, you know, diacetyl and other custard notes and flavors. You know, we'll look at the TFA information page on custard notes, what they have to say about it, and what they say about it is what I recommend, what I go off of. You know, it's accurate in my mind. And then I'll also show you the calculator that I use. I use a calculator from the ECF forum. It's a real nice spreadsheet that saves all your recipes in there. You change parameters and you just mix it up right from that. So I'll show you that, and then we'll go into some actual mixing, and then we'll talk about some DIY communities that you may want to check out, be a part of, and yeah, so let's do that. Okay, so here we are. This is the calculator that I use, and you know, this comes from, let me grab that link real quick. Yeah, so that comes from this thread right here. A little bit disorganized here. Alright, so anyway. Alright, we're waiting for the URL to forward. Okay. So if you go to the e-cigarette forum, you go to, let's just screw it, we'll navigate to it. Alright, so, waiting for the internet. Alright, so you go to the electronic cigarette forum, e-cigarette-forum.com, and you go to DIY Liquid right here, click that, wait for it to load, and we're waiting. Okay. So what we see here is the, yeah, right here, the e-juice calculator thread. We're gonna click into that, and then this is where I got the calculator. You're just gonna download that, open it right up. It's got everything that you need right there, and then boom, here we are. So what you do is you come in here, you enter in your flavors. So you know, you name your flavor, you enter in the recipe, and you know, you can, in here, you keep track of what you make. I've got notes in here, and today we're going to be making a flavor called the Nutty Mayor, which consists of TFA peanut butter, TFA bittersweet chocolate, and Flavor West hazelnut, and then a little bit of sweetener. So the PG calculator down here, it's a little bit difficult to see. For some reason my text is very tiny on these tabs. But you have a PG calculator and a VG calculator, and what you pick there is based on what nicotine solution that you have. So what you do is you just come over here, you select your flavor that you're going to be making, and like I said, be making the Nutty Mayor. That pulls it up right here. Then you come to section 1 right here, you enter in the strength of your nicotine base, which for me, 100 milligrams. Target nicotine percent, and we're going to be doing 10%, and I want to make a 5 ml bottle. You put that in, and now I don't use any water, vodka, or pure grain alcohol. It's unnecessary ingredients. I don't use it. If you want to use that to thin out your liquid, dilute it, whatever, go ahead. You enter in the VG percent that you want, and you'll notice that down here it now says PG with no nicotine as 0. If I were to enter in, you know, 75%, it would now be telling me that I have to put a negative amount of PG with no nicotine in there. That means that because my nicotine is PG based and my flavorings are also PG based, there's no way to make a 75% VG liquid with these specifications. So for max VG, I can do 70% with this flavor, and you know, that's flavoring percent. There we go. That leads me right into that. I mix with 20% flavor. So what you do for your recipe is you make these out of a value of 100%. So you know, I have 15% peanut butter, 50% chocolate, and 25% hazelnut. And then when you throw that into the calculator with your 20%, it dynamically adjusts all those and gives you, you know, the portions to equal the total amount of flavor would be 20% of the e-liquid. I like doing it this way because then you just have your recipe all set, And if you want to mix something stronger or weaker, you just change that one value right there, and then it does the rest for you. You don't even need to worry about it. Alright, yeah. So 20% flavoring, and now we have our liquid measurements here for the flavor amounts that you're going to be putting in. And the way I do it is I put in all the flavors, then I add my VG, my PG if necessary, and the last thing I do is I add the nicotine, and then I add a little bit of sweetener, just like, you know, for this flavor I do 2 drops per 5 ml. I'll probably, when I mix this up, just do 1 drop. You really don't need much sweetener at all, just a little bit to kind of tie everything together and, you know, just smooth out those flavors. And 1 drop of flavoring will really change the flavor from something that's just kind of like, you know, it's a bunch of flavors, to something like, oh, this mixes together very well, this tastes good, this is proper eLiquid. That 1 drop of flavoring is going to do that. 2 drops can be too much, 3 drops can be too much. You really don't need to sweeten your flavorings, especially in my experience, especially with the TFA flavors that I use. So yeah, I think that about does it for that. Showing you this calculator. Now I'll adjust the camera and we'll do some mixing. Okay, so here we are with our nice clean work table. We have everything that we need here. We have our flavors, we have our flavor syringes, got our all-important bottle, got a dripper that I use for the sweetener. It's the only thing that I measure with drops. Everything else is done with syringes and actual volumetric measurements. The sweetener I do with drops because, you know, to me that's the easiest way to do it. I don't have to think about like, oh, you know, maybe 0.1 mil will work. Alright, that's too much. It's just much easier with a drop. And then I have my, I'm going to call them material syringes. This is actually too big. Let me switch this out. I don't need a 10 mil syringe for this. Yeah, so this is my VG syringe. I have it marked so I don't mix up VG, PG. This is a PG syringe I'm not going to be needing, and then I have my nicotine syringe. So there we go, all set up. Bottle, everything else. So, like I said, first step that I do is I go into the software and, you know, I see my first flavor is going to be peanut butter, and it's telling me that I need 0.15 ml. So I take my vial, open that up, and then what I like to purge the syringe because, you know, these have been rinsed out with water. I don't want to be contaminating my flavors, so what I do is I just pull some liquid up until, you know, it comes up through the tip and I start seeing it inside the actual syringe, and then I just kind of throw that out. Alright, so we measure. Alright, measure more than you need in the syringe. Then I wipe the tip off so we're not flicking liquid everywhere. And, you know, just kind of get the air bubbles out like that. Alright, and then get it down like that. And then you just get rid of the excess back into the vial until you have that 0.15 that you need. Like so. Yeah, that's 0.15, and then throw it in your bottle. And cap this, and then I like to make sure, I like to keep track of these, so I set them down, and now I've got that syringe with that flavor, so nothing gets mixed up. Next is the bittersweet chocolate. Open that up, grab another syringe. Once again, I like to purge it like that, and then I need 0.5 ml, so I'm just gonna pull a whole bunch into the syringe, let it go to like 0.6-ish, 6.5. Again, wipe that off, get the air bubble at the top, alright, and then just put the extra back in. Alright, that's 0.5. And into the bottle it goes. Close that up, set it aside with the syringe it goes with. Alright, then the third flavor is the hazelnut. It's telling me I need 0.25. So, same as before, just purge the syringe. And then we pull out, say, pull out, say, 0.3, 0.4. Again, wipe that tip off so you're not flicking flavoring everywhere. You don't really want to get that in your eye. If you want to wear eye protection, feel free. It's probably a good idea. There we go. Now you can see it a little bit better. Sorry about that earlier. Alright, pull it down, get the air bubble out. And then just put the excess back into the bottle until we have 0.25 that the recipe calls for. And into the bottle. I don't like to touch the syringes to the bottle, and that's just, you know, to keep everything as clean as possible without cross-contamination going on. I like to avoid that. I like to just do this as scientifically as possible. So now all the flavors are in here. You can kind of smell it, get an idea for what's going on, you know. And it smells right. You know, you can be like, oh, maybe that smells terrible. I don't want to go through with mixing this, you know, whatever. So next what I do is I add the VG. So I get my bottle. The recipe calls for 3.5 mils. It's kind of awkward because, you know, the 3 mil syringe only goes to the 3 mils, and the 10 mil syringe marks in 0.2 increments, so you don't really have 0.5 on there. So what I do is I just measure out, you know, 2 mils and then 1.5 mils. VG is a little more difficult to deal with because you're always going to get a little bubble in the top of the syringe. So I just like to fill up my syringe and then quickly push it down, and that bubble will go out quicker than the liquid, and then you'll have a nice accurate measurement in your syringe. So I measure out 2 milliliters, get the excess off so it doesn't drip all over my counter, and into the bottle. And then I repeat with 1.5 to equal 3.5 mil. And then it goes. Close that up. And then I'm just gonna wipe this syringe off so I don't get the excess VG all over my counter, all over my desk. So there we go, now that's clean. Alright, and now for the potentially dangerous part. I still gotta find another glove, give me 1 second. Alright, there we go. Now I have both gloves, we can be safe. So now it's time to do the nicotine. Go ahead and throw on your gloves. And then I'm just going to open up the window so I get some airflow in here, some ventilation, so I'm not breathing straight nicotine fumes. Okay. And then just like measuring everything else, the recipe calls for 0.5 mil. So I just open this up. You want to be very careful not to spill this, not to get it on you at all. You just want to be very careful with this because it is poison. So just pull up in the syringe. Alright, there we go. And now this one is very important that you wipe off the tip because you don't want a drop on there. And then you go to flick the air bubble and boom, you got nicotine in your eye. Not good. Alright, there we go, getting the air bubble to the top. Just like that. Flick it out. Alright. There we go. And excess back into the jar. Measure 0.5, like so. And then into the bottle. wipe this off. Alright, now that's all ready. Cap your bottle, your nicotine. You take off your gloves now. Now you might want to leave your gloves on because what you got here is a layer of 100 milligram nicotine right at the top of your bottle. That doesn't really worry me too much, but if something were to happen unfortunate, then that might spill and then you've got potentially 100 milligram nicotine on you. So you might want to leave your gloves on. I don't, just because the gloves really get in the way. So as long as I'm not dealing with the giant bottle of poison, I'm good. And then the last step I do is I take the sweetener and my dropper and I just add a single drop. Now this is actually called a sweetener from TFA. It's a wizardlabs sized vial, obviously, but it is it's sucralose. It's you know, it claims to be artificial flavors. I don't know if there's actually anything in there. I believe it's just straight up sucralose as sweetener. There might be some kind of proprietary mix in there. I don't know, but that's what I use to sweeten. And then put your nipple top on. Give it a little bit of a shake. Alright. Now, as soon as you get that bottle done, you don't want to lose it with your other bottles. So I just go right ahead and I label it right away. Labeling is very important because when you're making your own liquids, you're going to have bottles all over the place. Some of them are going to be looking the same. They're going to get lost, and you really don't want to have that happen. You really want to keep track of your liquid. So what I do is I just put the name of the flavor, which is the Nutty Mayor. And then I put down the PG-VG ratio, or VG-PG the way I write it. So this is a 70-30. So I just do a 70-30. And then nicotine strength, which is 10 milligram. And then for me, I like to put down the flavor percent, which is 20. And then because I measure out the sweetener in drops, and you know, I'll be vaping this flavor, and maybe, you know, I want to make an adjustment to it. I like to keep track of how much sweetener I have in something, which is also the reason why I put all this information on the label, so I know what I'm vaping. So I just write down I have 1 drop of sweetener in here. Alright, there we go. Show you this label real quick. There we go. Focus, maybe, I can't tell. I mean, you get the idea, right? The Nutty Mayor, PG-VG, boom, 1 sweetener. Alright, so that's that. And then I just go ahead and I put that right on the bottle. I like to take my time and put the label on straight and neat. You can just slap it on there if you don't want to take the time, you know, whatever, but I like to. Okay, sorry about that. I wasn't paying attention to the time on the camera. It cuts off after a 4 GB file, which is about 12 minutes per clip. So yeah, we didn't miss much. You just lost me when I was putting on the label. So yeah, you put the label on and then you just shake it up. I like to hold it up to the light, and when the cloudiness goes away of the different layers, you'll know what you're looking for. You just shake it up till that's all mixed up. I don't do any kind of, you know, hot water bath or, you know, ultrasonic steeping or anything like that. Most of the time I vape these flavors, you know, straight out of the mixing room. And you know, they're good. They'll steep on their own. They'll change a little bit. Here is another bottle of this I made. You can see the color difference. One is, maybe you can't. I'm not even gonna try, but like you can see the color difference. The one's much darker than the other. That steeping just happens all on its own. I'm not really a proponent of, you know, hot water bath, speed steeping, rice steeping, or what have you. So yeah. give it a shake, and then yeah, let me switch the camera back. I'll vape this a little bit, and then we'll just do a real quick wrap up, and that'll be the video. Okay, so here we are with our freshly made flavor. Just gonna give what I've got in this atomizer just another quick vape, make sure, you know, so I can have new stuff, you know, vape it out, whatever. Alright, go ahead and we'll put our brand new flavor right into the atomizer. I just put like 3 drops. It's not a dry atomizer, so that'll be enough. Yeah, there we go. Tastes exactly like it should. I did everything right while trying to do it on camera, so I'm kind of proud of myself there. And yeah, that's DIY mixing for you. Just a real quick recap. ECF calculator. I know that I forgot to talk about diacetyl. Let me do that real quick. Basically, any kind of custardy flavor or like a creamy flavor, you know, your white chocolates, you know, anything that's like creamy will have, you know, something called diacetyl in it or another custard note. If you want to read more about this, go to the Perfumer's Apprentice. Follow this link right here. Really great information right there. It talks about all the different custard notes. Basically, if you're buying flavors from TPA, TFA, they will tell you specifically there are trace amounts of custard notes, there are custard notes, or there are no custard notes in this flavor. You should really try to stick to flavors that don't have any custard notes in there, because they have been known to cause respiratory problems. And obviously, vaping, we're trying to be healthy, we're trying to be safe, we're trying not to do harm to our body that we were when we were smoking. So, you know, it seems counterintuitive to be vaping custard notes and weird things that aren't good for you. And, you know, it's really the same as food coloring. You can do it. It's assumed risk. If you want to make the adult informed decision, read up about it, and then if you still want to use it, go ahead. No one's going to stop you, but please don't, you know, make a flavor, then be giving it to people, selling it to people without telling them that that's in there, and without telling them the potential dangers of it. That's just kind of shady. Don't do it. Yeah, so if you want to vape custardy things, go ahead and do it. You know, I vape from time to time a white chocolate orange cream, which has diacetyl in it. You know, in little bit amounts, it's probably not going to do all that much to you, but there is that potential, so be aware of it. Yeah, so now that, you know, I did that because I forgot about it, just real quick with the recap, you know, nicotine safety, gloves, eyewear, long sleeves, ventilation, maybe a respirator if you're using 100 milligram nicotine. PET bottles are what I recommend because that's what Wizard Labs ships their nicotine in, so you know the nicotine is not going to be reacting with that plastic, which could happen with other plastics. So I like PET bottles, and I think they also look better, they hold up better. You know, I just like them. That's what I use. I recommend measuring with syringes. I don't recommend, you know, doing recipes by drops because every dropper is going to be different. Your consistency and your accuracy is highly potentially going to be off every single time. So for that repeatable accuracy, I really recommend syringes or pipettes with a pipette pump. Let me bring up my little list right here real quick. Okay, so flavors, I recommend TFA, Flavor West. They're the two that I know are most suitable for what we're using them for. Other candy flavorings like Loran's, Capella's, I can't really say that they are good because I don't use them. I use TFA and Flavor West, so that's my recommendation. I would use TFA and Flavor West. Wizard Labs is a great place to pick up your DIY stuff, and then buy larger bottles from the actual flavor vendors themselves. yeah, so that's about it. And let me talk about communities real quick. Reddit, ECF has a good community. There's a lot of knowledgeable people there. It's not really going to be an entertainment community. It's going to be, you have a question, boom, you get an answer, done. Reddit falls more into the entertainment. You can just kind of hang out, talk to people, share recipes, which obviously you can do everywhere, but you know, that's DIY_ejuice as the subreddit. And there's also groups on Facebook. There's a really good group called DIY Recipes. The people there are great, the information is great, but honestly the moderators there really suck. And just like a lot of the vaping groups, they are on a power trip. They have a authority boner. And I got banned from that group by posting a recipe that I said was inspired by a vendor's flavor. And this mod just comes along and shits all over me, bans me, and like, now I'm completely, that resource is completely gone from me. I don't think that's fair. That was my own intellectual property original creation that I had posted, and she had no right to ban me from that. So fair warning about that group. It's very easy to get banned from. I've talked to other members and they've said they've seen people get banned for so many stupid little reasons that are like not even, like, don't even make sense. So just like any Facebook vaping group, those mods are out of their minds, insane, should not be given that kind of power if they're going to treat it like that. So yeah, I'm sorry to be like unprofessional and go off on them like that, but it needs to be said, fair warning. Great group, check it out, but be aware that if you step out of line, you're going to get banned. And that's really the only good DIY group on Facebook, so, you know, if you get kicked out of there, you're screwed, which really sucks. But yeah, that's the DIY Liquid for you guys. I hope that I was able to, you know, give you a good overview of everything. I hope that, you know, after watching this video you feel a little bit more prepared to start making your own flavors and really having fun with this side of vaping. Just like always, if you have any questions, post them in the comments. I'll definitely get back to you. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, you guys. You guys are great. Thank you.